Good evening and welcome to the Show to Be Named Later podcast. I'm Jonny Voss, and I'm joined by, I believe, the guy who was originally slated to take the roster spot left by Brent Rooker, who is now with the Oakland Athletics. Who are you, buddy?
Noah Stoerzinger, and I was really looking forward to the opportunity.
So is Brent Rooker. Now he's an all-star. Ooh.
Well, when you're on the Oakland A's, I mean, I don't know how you are not an all-star in the Oakland A's.
Right.
Yeah. So
now wait a minute. Now, okay. So I don't mean to cut you off there, but this is all new to me. I see a third person in the box. You want to explain what's going on here?
I think he hacked it. 1 second. Let me get him out of here.
I hacked
No,
it.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, we're joined. We got Louis Gerrity here. He's joining the show. He's actually my brother-in-law. I did marry his sister, so you're welcome. Louis is actually involved in the show. Louis, why don't you introduce yourself and tell him what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Louis Gerrity. I'm originally from Minneapolis, but I'm living in Orlando right now, so I'm way south of all you guys. But yeah, I'm kind of behind the scenes on a lot of the social media right now, especially with Twitter and Instagram. The guy that's kind of tweeting out and kind of posting all those clips and all that good stuff. Big Timberwolves fan. Timberwolves are my number one team. I played in high school basketball, and then I played a year in college in Bemidji, so I kind of have a big understanding of basketball, and I'm always rooting for all my other Minnesota teams. And then I worked for the professional hockey team down here as well, helped out with their social media. So I'm kind of real big into all the social media with sports and everything. And yeah, really excited to be a part of the show.
Now, let me ask you a question. So other than the Minnesota Golden Gopher basketball team,
yeah,
North Carolina State is my favorite college basketball team. You're wearing a Wolfpack shirt. Is that an NC State shirt?
No, so it's actually the team I played for is Oak Hills Christian College up in Bemidji.
Okay.
So this is the team I played for last year when I was, up
Not Oak Hill Academy wasn't that where Tracy McGrady went?
Yeah, no, not there, not down in that's with North Carolina down there.
Yes,
but yeah,
yes.
Up way north of Minnesota. Yes, sir.
Okay, and you're a Beaver. You're a Beaver, huh?
Yeah, so that school is across the street from us. So we went to a bunch of their games. We played them, I think, once or twice. They blew us out of the water. But it was a lot of fun playing up there. So, but down here, kind of focusing more on work and then kind of helping you guys out as well.
Okay. Well, welcome to the Show to Be Named Later podcast. And you have, except for the folks that we've seen on the street, you are our very first. You're the inaugural, the first guest that we've ever had officially on the show. So welcome.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm real excited.
All right, Noah, what do you want to talk about? There's a sport going on. We're right at the midpoint of the season. The Midsummer Classic was just this past week. We haven't been at this for a couple of weeks. I want to talk baseball. I really want to talk baseball.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot of baseball. Louis, jump in when you want. We'll ask you some Timberwolves questions here in a sec because obviously that's your team, and I got a lot of questions I want to ask you. Baseball, obviously the All-Star game. Not gonna lie, didn't watch anything regarding the All-Star game besides I did watch Sonny Gray and Pablo Lopez throw some good innings. But I don't know if this is you, and we haven't even really talked about what we were going to talk about. We just said baseball. What is your thoughts recently on the All-Star game? Because I've been disinterested.
I like the uniforms. Really? I've liked them this year and last year. I had this conversation with a couple of my friends, some very sour on the All-Star game this year. And I said, I got to let you know, though, that this is the only professional All-Star game that I can watch as far as any sport across the board any longer and still be entertained to a certain level. I can't watch the NBA All-Star game anymore. The Pro Bowl is a thing of the past. I don't know, the NHL All-Star game, what is it, like 25-22? Isn't that what the score is at the end of the,
Pro Bowl? Are they doing flag football now?
Yeah.
Was that always a thing, or did I?
And I grew up prior to me watching every Pro Bowl when I was a kid, in the 70s, they used to make money. Whoever won was paid an extra incentive, and there were still like things left over from the previous year. So the NFL Pro Bowl used to be a competitive game. By the time that it got to me, it wasn't like it used to be, but Major League Baseball also, if you know the story about Pete Rose taking out Ray Foss at home plate and really ending his career, that was an all-star game. It used to matter, but to me, the way that it's set up, baseball is the purest game you're ever going to get. So you're not going to have guys, like NBA, NHL, you guys got, we're not going to play defense. It's going to be this scoring show to entertain the fans, and that's what those games are all about. With baseball, you don't have anybody going, I'm not going to catch the ball at the wall in left field if somebody hits a right. You know what I mean? Right. And, it's different because I don't believe with the amount of players that goes now. Like for instance, Pablo Lopez to me is not an all-star. He was not an all-star this year. And if he did make the team 20 some years ago, he ain't getting in the ninth inning. I'm sorry. And to go to the all-star game as a starting pitcher, if we ain't seen him by the third or the fourth inning, we're not probably going to see him. But that's just the way that where the game has gone. Okay. And I've said it before, and I know you're going to edit it out, but when we become pussies and we can't play a game, and so you've got starting pitchers that, back in my day, the starting pitcher, if it was Randy Johnson, he might go 3 innings for you and get the win. It's just not that way any longer. And so I'll still watch the Major League Baseball All-Star game as long as it's around, which is different than any of the other sports that I watch. But it's definitely different. You know what I mean?
How was Pablo Lopez an all-star over Joe Ryan?
That's what my question was. And I said that because, a lot of my friends came back with, well, I think he's up to like third in strikeouts in the American League. That's great. Yeah. That's great. But he barely got to 500 in win-loss, right? And so to me, I didn't understand. Now Joe Ryan was 8-6, and he killed his chances because he got lit up his last 2 starts before the All-Star break. But to me, I am so much more into Joe Ryan, and then instead of Happy Pablo night. And yeah. I couldn't believe that. I was really pleased that Sonny Gray made the All-Star team, but to me, Pablo Lopez was not an All-Star, and that's going to affect my conversation because, we have to have this ongoing conversation about the Luis Arraez deal, and that's going to affect some of my arguments. Not that we're going to finish that conversation tonight, but I did want to bring some things up about the All-Star game and Luis Arraez specifically, but maybe that's a little bit down the road. I should maybe let you talk.
Well, I didn't know you were going to bring up Luis Arraez again, because I think we talk about him probably at the podcast.
You have to.
And I'm so excited for it's going to be 1 episode just on the trade at the end of the year, because I think anyways. No, you bring up a win-loss record quite a bit. I'm curious. Is that still a stat that plays a big part in your
absolutely
head?
Yes.
Because that is a stat that's kind of gone out the window recently.
Right. And that's because we'll never see a guy with 30 wins in a season. I believe Denny McClain was the last guy to do that. It's almost unheard of for guys to even get to 20 wins any longer. You know what I mean? So I understand what you're saying. However, I don't know, man. I look at Kyle Gibson's win-loss record and I go, what's the deal here? You know what I mean? And we can talk. I'm watching the Orioles right now. They're only 1 game out of first place right now. I still think wins and losses are a big deal. I know that the Twins have not given the support to their starting rotation, and that those guys, there are a lot of guys that should have more wins under their belt. However, I don't know, man. I watched Happy Pablo Day the other night and didn't see it. Did you?
Well, no, and you can say the same that the bullpen came in clutch this past series because
We'll get to that.
Kenta gave you 3 innings. Who else pitched? So Pablo, and then who went?
It was
Was it over?
no, it was I just watched the game. It was Joe Ryan last night.
Oh, and he got hit up pretty
He
well.
didn't, yeah. You know, we'll get to that because we've got Twins baseball, a lot to talk about here in a minute. But to me, I mean, I don't know. I'm really concerned right now about where the Minnesota Twins are at right now. And when we have Bremer, praising the bullpen, and the bullpen did its part this weekend. However, against the worst team in baseball, they did what they were supposed to do. So I'm not ready to suck everybody or to, kiss everyone's feet just quite yet about what a great job the bullpen did against an Oakland team that is a very, very poor ball club. And we had to labor to win every single game this weekend. And that didn't have, I mean, yeah, you're right. The bullpen did a great job, and Bremer was all excited about, well, these guys did their great job, even though you brought a crazy man in the one of the biggest moments of the series. That was Lopez, number 2. Anyway, I'm sorry, that's not very nice to say, but he's nuts. I'm not ready to do a lot of praising on that. However, they did pull it out of the fire because our starting pitching was terrible out of All-Star break.
So that's where I'm now. Again, I wouldn't say I'm right with you in like I'm not ready to super duper praise them, but good teams beat bad teams. So I'll give the Twins that. Obviously, it was the worst team in the league, but the best part about baseball is that the worst team in the league could beat you 3 out of 3 times. Whereas, you take any other sport and I think the better team's going to win 2 out of 3, 3 out of 3 all the time. And so I think closing the door showed something about this team. Not only the starting pitching has been good all year, and when it faltered, that's when we always thought this team was just going to die, right? Any other season, any other series, first half of the year, if the starting pitching put up those numbers, I don't know if we win those games. And again, I know it's the worst team in the league, but the offense came through and won us some games, and the bullpen shut it down to where it's got to make you at least feel good about it.
But my point is, and we're going to get into this in a second, but you're not going to play the Royals and the A's every series. You know what I mean? And that I think you hit the nail on the head when you said against other teams. I don't know if we would have. I don't think we would have win the series, but I don't think that we get 2 wins, much less 1 win. I mean, anyways, let's get into it right now because this is the big question that I had coming out of All-Star break, because obviously what the Twins situation was going into All-Star break. They sweep the Royals at home. Then they get swept by the Orioles at home. There was a lot of booing going on and a lot of catcalling at Target Field, which is right. It should be that way. All right. But here's what I struggled with in the last week, because I asked about 4 of my friends who watch the Twins like we watch. We watch every game, and they didn't have an answer. And up until 2 days ago, I didn't have an answer for it either. And I'm going to ask you to see if you can figure this out. Maybe this will negate everything that I'm thinking. Okay. Going into All-Star break, I read the article that the Falvines said that weekend series against Baltimore was very uncomfortable for them. I'm so sad, because they described it as a tense situation at Target Field where people should be knocking on the window and saying, what's going on here? What actually is happening right now? So they were uncomfortable because Twins fans are uncomfortable, or Twins players are uncomfortable, whatever. So coming out of All-Star break, I asked all my friends, because I've been chewing on this for 2 weeks. And I said, in a situation like this, Noah Stoerzinger, who do you hold accountable, or where would you go with this if you were running this team? Now, what I mean by that is, let's say that the Twins came out of All-Star break and they dropped 5 of their first 6. They lost 2 or 3 in Oakland and ended up, let's say they get swept by Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And they're 5 games out of first place. Who do you hold responsible or accountable, and how do you go about that? Now, you got 3 choices. I'm talking about the worst case scenario. Like, well, we're already tanked. We're not even going to see close to first place by the mid-August. It's done. What cages do you rattle? Who do you shake up to make this team better or to achieve what we think they can achieve? Now, first you got the players.
Mm-hmm.
And this is that would be the obvious choice to me. However, I remember 20-some years ago, the only time I ever called into KFAN, I called Paul Allen's show, PA show, and I said, this was the first time Randy Moss was on the team, and he was pulling Randy Moss shit that you just went, this has got to stop, right? And so I get called, and I said, hey, man, I was at the press conference. Mike Tice needs to do something with Randy Moss. He's acting immature. He's, whatever. And PA was, well, this is a grown man, okay? And so you've got to really handle him carefully. And what are you going to do? You're going to call him out in front of other adults, and he's a superstar and blah, blah. And so I was like, all right. So PA is not objective at all, okay? He's a cheerleader, and that's fair enough. He gets paid by that team, so he can't talk shit about the team that he works for. But he's basically saying you have to handle these guys with careful mitts, careful gloves, and that's what I would think about a guy like Byron Buxton or Carlos Correa. You can't just bench them. You can't send them down to AAA. Guys like Joey fucking Gallo, you're going to get a guy like that every season, whether it's Josh Donaldson or Josh Willingham or Joey Gallo. These guys come and go, right? You got guys, Max Kepler, maybe you're allowed to threaten AAA, or I'm going to trade you to Washington or whatever it is. Then you got the younger guys that can, go back and forth between Minneapolis and St. Paul. But I'm sorry, man, like there's got to be a way that you can hold players accountable for not doing their job. Don't you think?
So I have a very simple answer, and I'm sure it's the obvious one. Well, I mean, you mentioned the players, shaking up the players. To me, it's just Baldelli.
Okay.
He needs to go, and I'll point out what happened last year. When you look at this lineup and rotation top to bottom, it does not reflect to me the record that is in the standings currently. Okay, it's
not
a good
at all.
Team. It's a good team. The same thing was with the Philadelphia Phillies last year, a team that had who was the Yankees manager? Then he was the Phillies manager. They fired him halfway through the season, not even halfway through. The team sucked before.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name. Goodness. But then that team, what did they do? They went to the World Series,
right?
Because that's a great roster. And to me, it's. I don't know. There's obviously some issues with Correa and Buxton. It feels like just with the offense, and maybe there's something's not clicking. But to me, that coaching staff, top to bottom, needs to go because something's not right.
Well, so that was my next. Okay, tier number 2 is Rocco, and I think you know how I feel about Rocco. But is it fair if you say, look, this is not a bad roster that has been put together? On paper, this is a very good roster. So does that come from Rocco? Well, yeah. I really don't care if he's got guys on his team that were in his wedding. I really don't. Okay. If you have that bond with your players, that's great. But are they going to take you seriously when you do call them out? And so on one hand, I would say, well, it's got to be Rocco. Okay. But then if you say, well, look, it's obvious that his players are not playing for him. He can't go out and play 9 different positions, but you could hold him accountable in some way or another. And so, yeah, I do believe, and when you say the whole coaching staff, I see, Polanco's deal, what's his name took credit for that because they rushed him back too quickly and he hurt his hamstring again. Okay. But if you were to fire Rocco, who do you have waiting in the wings, if anybody? And who is going to be able to finally say to these guys, enough is enough? Because I'm tired of everyone saying, it's not going to go on all year. They're going to figure it out and they're going to start hitting the ball. Have they yet? No, not yet. Nobody has. They haven't. And you finally get the gift of a pitching staff, and you can't win games. It's not just a case of winning games. It's looking really bad playing your games as well. So then I go to the third step. Is it the Falvines? Because they're not going to fire Rocco. Rocco is their little robot who, let's look at the stats and we're going to be analytics guys and plug it in. And Rocco can be our little marionette that we can control every single aspect of it. But if you look at it, I'll give the Falvines Sonny Gray. I'll give them Joe Ryan. I'll give them Duran. All right. But there are a lot of trades right now that are really sticking out right now where you go, man, they messed this up. And so should they not also be on the hot seat?
So I think they absolutely should be. And I think that now their big thing was when they came from Cleveland and Texas, what was the big point about them? It was their pitching development and how they built the Cleveland pitching pipeline as deep as it was. I mean, every guy they called up was a stud for Cleveland. And you look at our rotation and it's phenomenal, but how many of those were homegrown players?
Right.
Bailey Over.
Yep.
And that's it. And so if that's your big sticking point and you have yet to accomplish that, and obviously I know it takes time and it takes years, the guys you draft and everything, but they came in 2017? So it's been how many years is that now? Like 6 years? And
right. And I looked at what the Twins record was a year ago today. They were 2 games above, 2 games up in first place, but I believe they were only, I think we only have a better record by like 2 games from last year. We're in the same boat. And then there's another stat that I saw. Since June 4th, the Twins have been within 500, give or take 2 games, positive or negative, since June 4th. They made absolutely no push in either direction. You know what I mean? And so I look at a series like tonight against Seattle. I look at them following up a sweeping of the A's, which they should have done, and then losing 3 or 4 in Seattle because they're playing the same exact team. Good pitching, no hitting. And it's going to be a test of whose pitching staff is going to be stronger.
So when you point out the Falvine combination here, I think firing them is one thing, but do you think that would immediately affect the team this year? If that's your whole point of how do we get the team to the playoffs?
No, I don't. That's a very good point. And so,
and that's why for me, it's firing. Again, this is a great team. They need a different leader. And I think just a change will help that out. I think that you see that across the board in sports, no matter baseball, basketball, football, whatever. Firing the coach, because I'm sure he might be a player's coach or whatnot, but obviously he's not doing something to impact winning. And sometimes just bringing in someone else when that whole mindset that they had with the previous coach goes out the window and they're just there to play some ball now, you never know what happens. I don't know who they would bring in, but right now anyone's better than Rocco at this point.
So what I agree. And all my friends that I talked to, they said, I really don't have the answer for that because I would lean towards Rocco. However, there are a lot of guys making a lot of money who aren't, it's not that they're not doing their job. They're not doing their job horribly. Okay. And so I think I came up with a solution and I want to know what you think about this. I don't think upper management's safe at least for the end of the year. And I don't even think that Falvine's got to worry about it after this year. They're not going to fire Rocco mid-season. I believe Ray Miller was the last Twins manager to be fired mid-season, and that was 1986, and that brought in Tom Kelly. Twins never fire a manager mid-season. So now you got to think about maybe short term. And this was my solution because, if we're going to go by Paul Allen saying we can't call guys out because they're superstars, not from where I'm standing. Byron Buxton is not a superstar. From where I'm standing, sitting, lying, it doesn't matter, okay? So here was my solution. You tell Byron Buxton that he got to play center field, okay? And here's my point about saying this, okay? I can get away with Carlos Correa maybe getting a couple hits every once in a while and watching him play defense. I can get away with Byron Buxton maybe hitting he's not playing defense. So I'm saying if you have no cards to hold with these guys, you're paying Byron Buxton exclusively just to hit the ball, which he's not doing. He's hitting under 200 now, okay? Mm-hmm. You tell him, go out and play center field, and then we'll talk, okay? And see what that does. And if he gets hurt, is that really going to affect our team right now? It's not. I watched him go 0 for 11 against the worst team in baseball, and Justin Morneau was celebrating his walk on Saturday night. He was 0 for 11 with one walk and a sacrifice fly, and on Sunday, they were celebrating what a great at-bat Byron Buxton had because he walked. Friday night, I was watching with 4 guys in the Garden of Eden, and had the bases loaded, Buxton on the at the plate, and I lost it. I'm pretty vocal during the games. I'll say this and that. Had the bases loaded, Buxton at the plate, and all of a sudden he strikes out. And I said, he didn't even swing the bat. And so for that, there's got to be a change in scenery. Put him in the outfield and see if that does anything for his confidence or him being a baseball player instead of DHing him. And if it doesn't work out or if he gets hurt, so what? Sign Nelson fucking Cruz, DH him, and play Taylor in center field. What do you think?
I love it because I've always, for the entirety of this podcast of this year that we started, I have always been okay with Buxton DHing. And I have been probably until what you just said opened my eyes of you're absolutely right in the sense of if he gets hurt, what are we losing?
Right.
Because he's hitting under 200, having his bat in the lineup.
He can't even hit the ball between the lines.
Right.
If he's lucky, he gets a foul down the line because that's all he can do is pull the ball, right?
And
everybody knows because they play right on third base. Sorry.
And I think he's the struggle. We know he can hit the ball. We know he's a great hitter. And I think it's strictly playing DH messes with your head. And he's been public about that, where he doesn't know how to adapt right now, where he's just sitting in the dugout every 3 innings. I will say, when you go make a diving catch in the outfield and you come back, you're like, oh, I'm hitting second. You feel pumped, you're ready to hit the cover off the ball and run the damn bases because you feel like a ball player. And I to your point, I think that's an excellent point of just make him feel like a ball player again and just make him play center.
And if it does, but what could be the alternative? What could possibly go wrong except that he gets hurt? But I'm watching him attempting to steal bases and running around. So obviously he doesn't have any problem running. So you're telling me that if you put the combination of a pro center fielder who has better skills than most center fielders, you put the combination of him running and catching the ball at the same time, he's going to magically get hurt again? So I honestly got to think that is, because Correa is actually coming around. He's almost up to 240 now. All right. I'm sorry. I'll celebrate that because his defense still, I get shivers every once in a while on some of the plays that he makes. All right. All right. That's my solution because I don't see them doing anything with Rocco anytime soon. And that's terrible. But here's the thing. If Rocco were to get fired, I think it would be another in a long line of Minnesota ex-coaches, managers who wouldn't manage anywhere in Major League Baseball or the NFL or whatever. If Rocco lost his job, I don't think he's a Major League manager anywhere else. Do you?
No. Now, to your point, the next guy they would bring in, I've seen this out in the internet. Who could be the next Twins coach? Current thoughts on the one name I saw that was kind of interesting.
Tony La Russa?
Torrey Hunter.
Interesting. Now, where have you heard that? Because I have not heard that.
That was strictly like, hey, Rocco gets fired. Who are your top 3 picks? And I've seen a couple Torrey Hunters, and it raised my eyebrow a bit.
I would absolutely raise eyebrows on that because Torrey Hunter is a no-nonsense guy, and he wears his heart on his sleeve. You ain't going to confuse what's coming out of Torrey Hunter's person. You know what I mean? He's going to tell you, he's going to call a spade. And so that would be interesting. Now, there are guys that have no previous managerial, history or anything like that. That is something because that was one that we could not figure out. Are they going to go in-house? Are they going to go look for somebody? But, the age of, I said Tony La Russa kind of in jest, but those days of like the hard core, it's my way or highway kind of man, that's kind of gone the way of the dodo bird in Major League Baseball. And so, but I still believe that you have to bring somebody in that's going to motivate in some way, something, and that's going to bring me to my next point. Okay. So, if you don't mind, we'll move on, but it still has something to do with what we're talking about. So I'm watching this weekend and I think that my opinion about Twins broadcasters. I like Dick Brenner. That's fine. I'm not going to get into the radio deal. But the color man, the best color man ever was Bert B. Home Blyleven. And I miss him every single day because he was my favorite to listen to. Didn't care if he messed up and cussed every once in a while, whatever. I listened to Justin Morneau, and to me, it's like listening. If paper could talk, that's what it would sound like. Okay, that's how I feel about Justin Morneau. It just okay. Glenn Perkins. Do I want to hear any more good old Minnesota, good old boy stories? Nope. You forget that he's an all-star. Not into Glenn Perkins. And Roy Smalley, same deal. Mr. Cheerleader, Mr. Let's Play, Remember When. I can't get into any of the color commentators. So then they bring this goofball in, Trevor Plouffe, right?
Oh.
And now wait a minute. There's a method to my madness on this, okay? Because I'm watching him and we're just giggling, going, this guy is an absolute piece of work. Like a complete goofball. I believe it was in Toronto. All of a sudden I made the reference. I said, I don't think he shut up for 2 innings. And we haven't heard Justin Morneau talk in 2 innings. And then in the 9th inning, all of a sudden I looked at Perm and I said, did they shut his mic off? Like that was it. They're completely done with him now. They can't listen to him any longer. Okay. So, he only goes on certain trips or whatever. And I'm thinking this guy is such a goofball. However, watch the game yesterday. Did you watch it?
Yep.
One of my favorite moments of the year so far. Okay. He brought it up in the 3rd inning and said, and for folks that don't know, Alex Kirilloff, he said, I just got to mention this. I said to him in the clubhouse, you're going to hit a home run, or that if I could give my wish, you'd hit a home run. And if you do, you got to point up to the, and after he told that story, I was like, I bet you Kirilloff hits a fucking home run tonight. He does. And you're just waiting. You're like I'm like, I looked at Perm and I'm like, is he going to do it? And he comes around 3rd and what Morneau said in that situation was exactly right. For him to remember doing that, like when you hit a home run and you hadn't hit one in over a month, I believe.
Yeah.
For him to do that, I mean, I got up off my seat and I was like, that's awesome. To see Plouffe all excited, I was like, this is good stuff. And I believe that's what Morneau said. This is good stuff, right? My point is, goofball or not, you had somebody in the clubhouse motivating, and his name wasn't Rocco. Okay. And so if that's what he brings, I mean, I always think that, he's late for some GQ or something, or like he's just a goofball and he won't shut up, and gee, I don't know what that's like. But I gotta say, man, that was probably my favorite highlight of Twins baseball this year was the Kirilloff home run last night.
Lewis, your job after this is to tweet at Trevor Plouffe this clip of John talking about him.
Yes.
He'll respond. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
He'll respond, and he'll be on the podcast soon. No, like it's. I'm glad to hear you talk positively about some color commenting. I'm not going to get into it because we'll talk for over an hour on it. I have no issue with Justin Morneau, Roy Smalley, whoever. I don't. But I will say that was super cool to see the point and everything. In Kirilloff's interview after, he said he almost forgot, so it was cool to see him remember as he rounds third base.
Now Kyle Farmer is going to be all jealous of his best friend because, right? Why are those guys so tight? Do you know?
I didn't read much into it. I have a feeling it's just a bit, but
no, they are. They're best friends now.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So they never played together though, right?
I don't think so because Farmer played Dodgers, Reds, Twins. Plouffe was all over.
Oakland. No, Oakland was the only one after us, right?
Well, he did Oakland. He was in Tampa. He was in.
That's right.
Philly, I think. Yeah.
Okay. But, all right. Well, that was my positive deal because going into All-Star break, I figured that was the last time we'd see first place. And yes, I'm negative. Okay. Like I say, you're not going to see the Royals or the A's. They labored with the A's. They easily could have lost all three of those games. I think they're going to struggle. I think what they got 7 of their next 10 is against the Mariners. Mm-hmm. That scares me. And if you're going to keep doing stuff like this where, you win 3 games in a row, I watch all these teams in Major League Baseball right now. And the Braves have just won 9 in a row or 10 in a row. And Baltimore has won 8 in a row. And the Twins can't ever get past 3, And so, and if you lose 3 of your next 4, it doesn't matter anyways, right?
Yeah. Well, again, I think it's tough too because like I'll be, you talk shit to other people about their teams, right? And I got a couple Reds fans, and I'm like, I'll throw jabs at them or whatnot, and it's embarrassing because the minute I get a message back from them, I know exactly what it's gonna be, and it's have fun winning the division or be the first team to ever win a division under 500. Or it, like this division is piss poor, embarrassing at this point. And if we make the playoffs, great. I mean, I'll take a playoff berth any time of the year, but I want to run away with this division because the Guardians. Exactly. People are telling me the Guardians are good, and I don't see it. That team's not very good, and the Twins are good on paper.
And now they lost Bieber too, right?
Oh, did they? I didn't see that.
I thought that they lost Bieber. So I mean, it doesn't matter. It's the same as last year. Last year, the Twins could have walked away with the division title as well. Yeah. When you look at this team, and I brought this up before, but a lot of my friends, well, no, it's just Correa's not going to do this. No, you've got to kind of be comfortable saying right now that Correa's having a bad year. It's not a slump any longer, okay? And if Correa's in a slump, gee, what does that make Byron Buxton? And for everybody to say, well, they're hitting, they're going to figure it out eventually. It's halfway in the season, and they have not figured it out. And yeah, They did score some runs on Saturday night, but the other two games they didn't, and they're playing a pretty piss poor team right now. Now, switch gears here because I think this is such a fun conversation. So I'm watching Sunday Night Baseball last night. It was Houston Anaheim Angels, and I'm wondering what your opinion is on the Ohtani deal. So they went into great detail about what the Anaheim Angels should do with this guy. And I guess my hands are tied on this because I don't know what I would do. So basically you've got this guy who he's going to ask for $500 million. I'm sorry, he is. He's going to ask.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he might be the only guy in the history of stupid, insane contracts that might actually warrant that kind of money if that's what people are making these days, right? I mean, you're getting a 2-for-1 player and a guy that excels in both pitching and hitting, right?
Mm.
So the question is, what do you do if you're the Angels? Do you trade him for prospects or what have you? Or do you ride it out to the end of the year? I think they're 8 games out of first place. I don't see them. There was talk last night of, well, what if they get Trout back and they make a run and they were able to make the playoffs, so we're going to hold on to Ohtani? I don't see that happening. But the rub is, if you hold on to him to the end of the year, you might not even get a shot at re-signing him next year. So you trade him now and you get what you think you might, you get something at least. But what do you do if you're the team trading for him? How much do you give up for him? Because there's not a guarantee that he's going to sign with you again next year. So, I mean, to me, this is one of the most intriguing, interesting, fascinating scenarios in Major League Baseball right now, and has been for a while, because the details are so different from what you're used to in free agency or trading or whatever it is.
This is the trade deadline I'm looking forward to the most, only because the Twins are going to buy. And I always get excited when the Twins buy because it feels like we're always sellers. But Ohtani, it's so interesting because I see so many arguments for keeping him and so many arguments for trading him. And if I'm the Angels, now, okay, if I'm the Angels owner, I am keeping him and I'm throwing as much money as I have to sign him because he's by far the best player in the league right now.
Right.
But Art Moreno, one of the worst owners in baseball, it's not going to happen. I don't think he's an Angel next year if they keep him, unfortunately. So when you look at trading him, I've seen a lot of people. I remember we talked about this couple episodes ago of, hey, the Twins were in discussion about trading him. And I've seen some mock trades, and it's a shit ton of value that the Angels are getting because of how good this guy is.
Right.
But
if you only get him for 3 months,
that's the thing. And people are like, you still got to do it because he's that good. But I don't think I don't know. And I'll give you a mock trade. I have one off the top of my head here, but I'm curious what you were going to say. You had your finger up.
Well, because I couldn't believe, because you brought this up a few weeks ago about the Twins having their hat in the ring, and I was like, there's no way, and so basically, if you were, how much are you going to give up to rent a player for 3 months to a team that may barely make the playoffs and aren't going to do shit when they get to the playoffs? You know what I mean? And I don't know that there is enough. I don't think Kenta Maeda is enough for him to go, yeah, you know what? I think I'll stay, in Minnesota. So I was so like, I don't know, Noah, man. I think that's a young optimist way of looking at things. However, I'm watching Sunday Night Baseball last night, and Eduardo Perez, who I do like. I like listening to him. I got to ask you why you brought this up, because I was shocked when it happened. So they're talking about that. They talked about it for like 2 straight innings. And all of a sudden they're talking about, what you receive for Ohtani, what you're giving up by trading him this year. And Eduardo Perez out of the blue says, well, no, let's think about this for a second. What if the Angels were to get back something that was actually going to play? And you talk about young prospects all the way, and you get maybe a half a dozen young prospects that aren't ready and aren't going to maybe put people in the seats in the next 2 years, maybe 5 years down the road. How about putting guys in that you might get some bang for your buck on the trade right now? And he said, I'm not even kidding. He goes, so you might even put Joey Gallo at first base in a trade out of the blue. And he didn't keep going with it, but I had to rewind it 3 times to make sure he said Joey Gallo's name, because I would not have thought Eduardo Perez or anybody in the national scene would think the Twins are even have this much of a chance of even talking to him on the phone. Mm-hmm. And Perez brought up Gallo, and so I thought, that's interesting. Why would he do that?
Well, I hope that gives me some street cred there for some of my predictions, because I mean, hey, I don't think I've never really thought of putting Joey Gallo in the trade. That makes sense. I've heard the Angels are looking for at least 4 prospects in the top 100 rank, which I don't know how many teams have more than 2 or 3 in the top 100. I think the Twins just cracked 4 with their most recent selection.
Right.
So that's the caveat, right? Is like, okay, you can get Ohtani for 2-3 months, but you're trading your whole system, like, and that's why I don't.
Well, and the fact that the Twins are ready. I mean, you've got 2 guys in Cincinnati right now that are playing very, very good baseball. You've got one in Baltimore that's playing very, very good, all-star as well. Was he not? Cano was an all-star, right? So I think that there's got to be some kind of gun shyness to thinking about trading away future talent if these are legit guys, right? And I don't think that you're going to trade guys like Wallner or your guy that you like,
Brooks Lee,
infielder.
Brooks Lee.
Yes. I don't think that you're going to, because that really could bite you in the ass, especially if you've got nothing. Because look, in a perfect world, there's no Minnesota team that's going to plunk down $500 million for one player, right? It's just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. No, and then to me, like, again, if there was a scenario where that was going to happen, the only way I trade for him is if I know for a fact he's signing an extension with me. If he was, throw the fucking table at him, because give it to me. Like, I want him.
Right. I agree with that wholeheartedly. But that's just it. Like, he doesn't even have to. He could say, yeah, I plan to sign for next year, or, in the next 10 years, because he's going to want a 10-year deal, right, to get that $500 million.
Mm-hmm.
But he could say at the last minute, I got a better offer, I got a better situation, I can easily go here, even for less money. So I mean, nothing is written in stone or anything like that. So I mean, that is a huge gamble. And I, as excited as I was about telling that, I still don't think the Twins are even close to being in a conversation about that guy.
Well, yes and no. I do actually think we could be close in the conversation with what we could offer. It's just, are we willing to offer what we could offer? The trades I've seen are, to Perez's point of putting people in the seats are, you could look at trading a Larnach, an Ober, a Brooks Lee, and, our number 3 prospect to get him. But again, that's a lot. And I'm so excited to see if he gets traded when that team doesn't win the World Series, because that's just my guess right now. Whoever gets him, I don't think they're going to win the World Series.
Right.
To then have him, when he leaves in free agency to another team, I can't wait to see that GM get fired.
Right.
Because to me, like, that wasting a whole farm system for one guy for 3 months isn't worth it to me.
Now, I will say this. Now, I know you didn't watch the All-Star game, but boy, it was pretty cool, man. So the All-Star game was in Seattle, and I don't know if you saw the highlights or that you saw footage of it where the entire crowd was chanting "Come to Seattle" when he was at the plate.
That's cool.
It was quite. I mean, and this guy has had that kind of rock star effect on Major League Baseball, and I think it's great. I think it's great for the sport because everybody always says that the reason that Major League Baseball is not appealing to the youth or to the inner city or whatever it is because you don't have guys wearing big chains and they're not. It's just not the same as basketball and football. Making a fashion show every time they show up to the ballpark or whatever. I think it's really cool that you got a player that's not American, doesn't look the glitz part of it, just goes about and does his job on both sides of the ball. I think it's great for baseball. I really do.
It's super cool. And it's like, I was going to point out the character of the guy. Like he's just it just seems like he has fun every day. He's just showing up to the ballpark to play some baseball. And I feel like you don't get that from some people every day. That are superstars. So it is super
right.
Cool.
Does Byron Buxton look like he's having any fun at his job right now?
Because he can't play center.
Seriously. All right.
I think another thing to mention too about Ohtani in Seattle is I think you talk about that and you can't forget the Ichiro connection there as well. I think that Seattle with Ichiro and Ohtani, I think that could be a big thing to think about.
Or just the Japanese connection in general in Seattle.
Ohtani in Seattle, that would be cool to see. I would Ohtani with Julio Rodriguez, that'd be a fun team.
I think it'd be fun to see him pitch with Maeda, and
Kenta ain't gonna be on the team next year.
I know, I know, and I'm just neither is Nishioka. So all right. We're gonna shift gears here. I told you that we've gone 48 minutes now. I told you that was going to be a long segment. We want to switch sports there.
Let's switch to basketball.
Okay, I'm gonna go. Keep going. I'm gonna head for the Rockies. I'll be right back.
All right. Have a safe flight. All right. Lewis, you said you were obviously the Timberwolves are your team.
Yeah.
We'll wait for John to get back because I already know his thoughts, and the viewers know his thoughts as well. Your thoughts on the 2022 Timberwolves season?
So for me, I went how I expected it would go. I knew that with as big of a piece as Gobert is, I knew there's going to be a lot of adjustment time. And I figured that we were going to be around 500 or above 500 and probably playing in a play-in game. So, but the way the end season, it went how I expected, but how we got there was very unexpected. I think because I expected D'Lo to be on the team whole season. I didn't. Obviously, Cat getting hurt played a really big part in that as well.
Yeah.
And then obviously the big splash that we made at the trade deadline was pretty unexpected for me. So it's like it was a roller coaster of a season, 100%. But I'm very optimistic for the next season, especially with how we performed in the playoffs too. I think, yeah.
Well, yeah, especially with Anthony Edwards, his play in the playoffs. Now, so you were obviously, I think both of us are pretty optimistic. The big publications had the Wolves last year winning 52 games.
Yeah.
and so you thought we were going to still be playing in a play-in game. That's interesting because everyone else had us winning over 50 games that year.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So this is my favorite one because obviously, John, we know your thoughts. Karl Anthony Towns, you trade him, you keep him.
I have a lot of thoughts about Cat. So obviously, like, it's really fun to watch Cat when he's scoring 60 against the Spurs last year, and he's like moving like that.
Mhm.
But when he's hurt all season and then he's coming back and he's like not 100% all year, then it's really easy to be like, we got to trade him because we could get a lot of value for a player like that. But I feel like I said, I think we stick with the system because in the playoffs, you see how much size plays a big part. I mean, in the finals, you watch Bam Adebayo trying to guard Jokic, and then you bring in Cody Zeller off the bench.
Yeah.
That's like, it's not something you can do. And so I think having a really solid big guys with Cat and Gobert and even Naz Reid coming off the bench, I think you stick with the system as much as it hurts to watch Cat chuck up 12 threes and only hit 2 of them to score 50 or 15 and then only have like 5 boards and 3 assists.
And John, I know your thoughts. I'm with Lewis right now in this year in running it back this year.
But you have to. We've already talked about it. You have to do it because Tim Conway, that's what I call him, Lewis. He has to because he wasn't given the opportunity because Cat's a puss and couldn't play most of the year, even though I think he could have. All right. So you have to, like you say, run it back, but you have to, because I don't think Tim's getting what he thought he was getting when they initially traded for Gobert, because he wasn't able to play them in many situations. Now, I wonder, I got to ask you, Lewis, what do you think the over-under is for how many games Cat plays this year?
I think over-under, we'll say over-under set at like 55. I'll take the over on that. I think he plays closer to like mid-60s this year. I'm sure he's going to sprain an ankle like in December, like right before.
What did he play last year?
He missed 52 games or 53, right? Right. So my I guess what I'm going to be curious about as the season starts is obviously I don't think Cat gets moved before training camp starts, even though his name is still being thrown around quite a bit. I want to know if this experiment continues to do what I think it's going to do, and it's just a continuation of last year, how quick it's going to be for people to say this is going to happen. Towns got to be moved. How far down the road in the season is it going to be before you say, gee, can we still salvage? Well, it's like the Twins hitting. It's going to come around. Or they just say, you know what, this is not going to work. And I really don't think that this I just don't think that the chemistry is there between those two guys.
Yeah, for me, how I see it is if we don't make the Western Conference Finals next year, then we have to have serious talks about blowing it up and sending Cat and Gobert out.
Well, get ready to be serious.
That's bold. The Western Conference Finals, isn't it? Like, you even think like second round of the playoffs, you don't like. To me, that's a success with these two, because I don't even see that as a possibility right now.
Guys, we got to win a playoff series before we can even talk about second round Western Conference. Okay, we have only won 2 playoff series in the whole history of this team. All right.
But if you think about it, you look at how it went last year. We played the Lakers in the play-in game, and we lost a very, very close game, which I think we should have won, but we lost a very close game.
Should have won, yeah.
And then the Nuggets game, I think we played 4. Obviously, that first game we just throw away. It was terrible to watch. But then the rest of those 4 games were fairly competitive. And so those are the 2 Western Conference Finals teams that we played, and played pretty decently in those playoff games, especially with how the league looks right now. It's the most wide open I think it is in a very, very long time. And so that's why I think like now is the time where we make our move and really.
Well, and I know I don't know you very, very well, Lewis, and hopefully that will change as time goes on. But and you can think that, but I'm 50 years old and I'm through with fucking moral victories. Okay, yeah. I can hang on those things my entire career watching the Timberwolves, and I tried this year going, hey, How about, what's the NBA come to when the Wolves win more playoff games than the Bucks do? Or they beat Denver more times than the Lakers did, and that's all fine and good to rub my tummy about things like that and say, well, that's great. But it doesn't mean that we advance. And when you've gone through 30 years of watching this team not advance every single time they make the playoffs, except for one season, I'm done with the moral victories. And I don't mean that disrespectfully towards you. I like the optimism and I like the enthusiasm. I'm just sick and tired of it.
I completely understand that. And me being a young Timberwolves fan, it makes sense how you see it that way and how I see it the way I do.
You and me both at this point. So we've had this conversation,
yes.
I think every episode almost. But it's interesting to look at because, I want to look ahead to 2023 as we have been. I like the moves that we've made. We haven't talked Timberwolves offseason yet. Obviously, Jalen Noel no longer with the team. Naz Reid, big extension. Anthony Edwards, big extension. We got Troy Brown Jr. And we got Shake Milton from Philly. Torian Prince is now at the Lakers. So a lot to unpack. John, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on the offseason right now?
It's tough for me to, especially because I'm in baseball mode right now. That's all I'm kind of looking. I did watch parts of the draft, but I would say this is one of the few years that going in to the Timberwolves season, there's a lot of guys I don't know anything about. Okay. And that's very rare. But here's the thing. I mean, I was talking to my boy P the other night and I said, the NBA game just doesn't grab my attention the way that it used to, where you knew everything about every player on the roster. You knew everything about the players that were being drafted up until the second round. You know what I mean? And I watched that draft and I know that is kind of a fashionable thing now to make that jump, to skip college altogether and just go to the G League right away. Right. But a lot of those guys, I don't watch G League basketball. I don't come home and go, hey, what's that? And so a lot of those players I wasn't aware of. I was only aware of them because I would talk to you, Noah. So the NBA game is a little bit different for me than it was, and I'd say even 10 years ago. So there's just a lot of unknowns. Even last year there were guys that I was just like, who the fuck is this guy that they just put in? So I expect the Wolves to be about the same as last year. I really do. And because of the Gobert deal that they got right now, I expect the Wolves to be about the same for about the next 3 or 4 years. Unless something, drastically changes, that's what I'm looking at it as, playing worthy, perhaps. And that's about it.
Obviously I'm the optimist of the show, but
now we got a new one too.
Yeah.
It's got to be a family thing going on here, huh?
I mean, this team isn't going to win 50 games, in my honest opinion. And I would love to be proven wrong. But I think it's a better squad out there than previously. I think not having D'Lo on the team, I like Mike Conley a lot better. Mm-hmm. Shake Milton, I think, is an underrated pickup, as well as Troy Brown Jr. However, I don't like losing Torian Prince only because of the shooting and the locker room mentality that he brings to the team. So I think that'll hurt a lot. However,
I agree. So who's going to be the leaders again? Honestly, who are going to be the leaders?
I mean, Mike Conley's going to play a big role this year, the big vet role, which I'm really excited to see. I think Shake will play a little bit of that role, as well as I think this is the year of Anthony Edwards. I truly do, in terms of him stepping up and being the sole leader of this team, because I think Cat, I mean, it's not Cat, right? It's not his team anymore. It is Anthony Edwards' team, especially after this contract, and this kid is ready to prove everything he's got. He's got to give. And Lewis, I'm curious at what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, with offseason, I like the Shake Milton pickup, and then I believe we're keeping Alexander Walker too, and I think that's going to be a really
his defense. Yeah,
that's going to be a good fit. My biggest thing is losing Torian Prince, and then even a little bit with Jalen Noel. That floor spacing is going to be pretty iffy, especially coming off the bench. Because I know Shake Milton's more like a bucket getter, but not like kind of a floor spacer. So that could be interesting. And I'm going to agree with you with like this is the year of Anthony Edwards. I know like with national TV, there's talks of him potentially being the league leading scorer. I think that's very, very possible, especially if Cat plays a more efficient season compared to what we've been used to seeing. I think
and the thing I like about Edwards is he's a guy you can get behind, that you can go, you know what, I really want to cheer for this guy, you know?
Yeah, it's different from like Andrew Wiggins, where like you see that Edwards actually has a lot of joy in doing that.
It's the shit.
He likes having that chip on his shoulder, and it looks like he's like having fun, like a little bit like Ohtani, where like how we talked about earlier. He looks like he just has fun being out there and just like getting buckets and trying to kill.
But I believe takes responsibility when he's not getting buckets then too, and says, you know what, I got to be better than this. Kind of like Farm Dog, Kyle Farmer, who said, right? I mean, that's what I mean. It's, you know, if he just showed up, you know, to the gym and just expected to be Anthony Edwards. No, I think that he does work on his game. And that's why I think he's so much, it's so easy to be in his corner.
Well, and I got friends who at work, you know, I have a Boston Celtics fan and a New York Knicks fan, big market teams that, you know, have some big players. When we're talking basketball, they don't stop talking about Anthony Edwards and who he is and how cool of a guy he is, not on the court, but even just off the court. I don't know if you guys saw his thing. He's investing into the Minnesota community after this big contract with his Don't Follow the Wave initiative or charity or something, you know, just trying to help kids not follow the wave of violence, drugs, all that stuff. So it's cool to just see him even off the court putting work into the community. And I think he really loves Minnesota, and he's just a guy that, like you said, John, he's so easy to like, and I'm so happy he's on our team.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. I was going to say, I think, John, you can probably quote me on this, but I think this is the first time in a long time where Minnesota fans are really behind this team in a really big way, because obviously you got Ant, and then everybody loves Naz Reid. I mean, you're just seeing everywhere on Twitter, just Naz Reid. Jaden McDaniels, everybody loves. And then even looking at like the draft too, everyone's really behind these second rounders that we got. I think, you know, obviously, John, you've been a really long Timberwolves fan. So it's the first time in a long time where everybody is like really behind this team and really wants them to succeed a lot.
Now, who's the guy from Philly? What did you say his name is?
Shake Milton.
Shake Milton. Now, is that Shake like the guys that sell a bunch of oil and drive Mercedes in the Middle East, or is it like a shake what you get with your burger and fries?
I think it's a little shake with like burgers and fries.
Oh, okay. All right, just checking that. See, and that's I'm showing my ignorance. I don't know everybody on this roster, so you know, I'm guessing that, you know, as we get closer to the season starting, you know, I hope that I get this reaffirmed love affair with this team. You know, I mean, it's just tough because, you know, we don't talk a lot of Wild hockey, and Minnesota Wild are in the same boat as the Wolves. I see them spinning their tires a little bit, but you know, maybe the youth movement knows something that I don't know, and it'll be interesting to see where that takes us.
Yeah. Lewis, my one question, I mean, you brought up the rookies. John, I'm assuming you didn't watch Summer League. Not that I did either, but Leonard Miller was
he the one that did the windmill jam? And A-Rod didn't even get excited. He was just like sitting there. They were interviewing A-Rod on the sidelines, and we got a breakaway dunk, and he did the windmill, and A-Rod just kept talking like he didn't even like get up and like, like, which I thought showed that he was a professional. But
right, I'm not sure
sorry,
if it was. I'm not sure if it was Leonard Miller, but he was the 33rd pick.
Yeah.
Really, I think could have been a first round pick. This guy, to me, I'm curious who you envision when you watch Leonard Miller play, but just from watching the highlights, this guy is a better Jared Vanderbilt who can shoot, in my honest opinion. What do you think?
Well, I think I'll be honest, I didn't watch a whole lot of Summer League, but I did watch a decent amount of highlights, and I think that's a very fair comparison. I think he's pretty similar to Josh Minot, where he's a bit of a project where he's going to need some time down in the G League to really develop.
He's 19, so I mean,
it makes sense. I mean, all these kids are like stupid young, so
yeah,
it makes sense that they're going to take time to develop. But I think kind of like the Timberwolves farm system is really something to keep an eye on, because you got Leonard Miller, Josh Minot, Luka Garza looking like an MVP in the G League.
I think he should be on the NBA roster. I really do.
I think he will be this year.
We have an open roster spot, and I think it's going to be for Garza. If I'm like, I think they'll.
I don't know what Garza did to get him off of the roster. Like every time he got in the ball game, it seemed like he contributed, and to me, it didn't seem like it was a numbers game all the way across the board. I thought he played his way at least to give him an opportunity to remain on that team. I would have liked to see Garza up the entire time.
I think the hit on him is his defense right now in learning the schemes. And I think he'll get there. But, I mean, I think his offense I love his offense.
Yeah.
And I think he can learn some defense. He's a little
flat-footed. Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't move great. When you watch him run, that guy, he's pumping through. But I'd love to watch him block some shots and just kind of learn to play defense, maybe learn from Naz Reid a little bit, just how to move and read some schemes. And but I do think Luka will take a spot. We get an extra 2-way contract this year with the new CBA.
Right.
So it'll be interesting. Our other second round pick, Jalen Clark, they used a 2-way on him, but he won't be ready after his injury for, I think, till January or February. So we probably won't see him play this year, but he's also exciting because of I don't know if you know, he was like the defensive player of the year for college basketball. And that guy averaged almost 3 steals a game, which is insane.
Yeah. And I will say I am a little bit wary of like these draft prospects, because as Timberwolves fans, I feel like, especially like modern Timberwolves fans, we tend to over exaggerate a lot of things. I mean, we thought Balmaro was going to be the next Ricky Rubio, and we saw how that works out. So I like to be a little wary of how we look at the prospects, but I think we do have something really good brewing with our like really young talent. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out.
Did you know Balmaro was a first-round pick?
Yeah.
We wasted a first-round pick on Balmaro. He plays in Spain again. Spain, one of the country. That I don't know.
We won't have enough time if you're going to have me talk about
okay
picks. Yeah.
So I want to move. I mean, we're past some time here, but I have some segments here.
Okay.
I think one of my favorite segments is the Can You Guess?
I always struggle with this
segment, but it's so fun. And since we're on basketball, I'll start with basketball and we'll move to baseball. John, do you remember Chat GPT?
Chat GPT. That was the guy that worked at KFC in Richfield.
Yeah.
And used to sell CDs out of his car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you remember him. No, he's he's the.
No, that's the. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So I asked Chat GPT to create. Last time we did top 10 Twins. I've done top 10 Timberwolves, which a lot less storied franchise, obviously. So I'm not going to lie. I would say I know everyone on this list but one guy, and Lewis can attest as I was looking up this list. I and maybe I'll look really stupid when I say I don't know who
Top
this guy
10
is, but
Timberwolves of all time, huh?
of all time. So
Okay.
we're gonna start. I'll ask both of you can guess, but we'll go 10-1. Who do you think is number 10 on the list?
I wish I would have had to be able to prepare for this because I got to get. I'd have to get 10 guys in my head right now. You know what I mean?
Well, it's really not that many to pick from if you if
I
you're
know
looking
that.
at this list.
I'm going to go with Sam Mitchell as number 10.
I will tell you if they're on the list. Sam Mitchell does not make the list.
He did not. Wow.
I would have put him on the list.
I would have put him on the list. I would have.
I'll give you a hint here. This is a recent Timberwolf.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think
let Lewis take a shot at number 10 here.
I'm gonna lean towards Andrew Wiggins.
It is Andrew Wiggins is the 10th best Timberwolf in franchise history according
I wouldn't even give him fucking no way. Nope. That I would not. I wouldn't put him on top 20 or nope. Okay.
Not even top 20.
Nope.
We haven't.
I take Troy Hudson over fucking Andrew Wiggins any day of the week, man.
Okay, number 9, John. Who you go with?
I'm gonna go with Kevin Love.
Kevin Love is on the list, but it is not number 9. Lewis, who you got?
Give me Latrell Sprewell.
Sprewell is also on the list.
Really?
But he does not meet number 9. Number 9 is Terrell Brandon, who I never watched play. Lewis, you never watched play. John, what are your thoughts?
He was soft. He owned a flower shop. He was soft. He was the one that they signed him to big bucks. And that was when the Wolves drafted a guy, point guard by the name of Will Avery, who came out of Duke, did not graduate out of that class. I think there were 4 Duke Blue Devils who were undergraduates, and Krzyzewski was not a fan of guys leaving, at that time at least, not, before they finished their 4 years. He said Will Avery was the only one out of the 4 that should not be in the NBA draft. The Wolves went with him. Terrell Brandon signs this huge contract, and after he signs the contract says, I think I'd just like to come off the bench and let Will Avery get his bones in, and I'll just be a mentor to him. No, I would not put Terrell Brandon and his flower shop on that list. No way.
All right. Number 8. This is a guy I've never heard of. What's your guess?
Gee, you never heard of him?
And
you've heard of him. That was actually going to be my number 9. But if you've never heard of him,
and maybe I have, but I don't know.
Hold on now. Todd Murphy?
Not Todd Murphy. It's a 3-letter name. Lewis, do you think you can get it?
I mean,
first or last name is 3 letters.
First name. Close to Todd.
I mean, I'm gonna guess it's probably like somebody in the 90s. And I'm not like too familiar with those teams.
Taj Gibson.
Hell no.
I'm just gonna take a pass on this one. I don't. If you've never heard of him, I feel like I probably haven't heard of him.
It is Tom Gugliotta.
Tom Gugliotta, no, North Carolina State. He was part of
Boston. That's a good pick, actually. Yeah.
But see, I had him further down. He was an all-star. Tom Gugliotta, yes, absolutely top 10. Yes, sir.
I agree with that. Actually, I know.
I don't know. I've never heard of
Tom Gugliotta for sure.
All right,
number 7. I'm going to go right now because you have to put him in. I'm going to go with Karl Anthony Towns because that's how far down the list I'd put him.
He's on the list, not number 7. Lewis, who you got?
Sam Cassell Dirty and have him down there.
He's also on the list, Not number
You can't
7.
put motherfuckers on there for 1 year. They only put. All right. Sorry.
Well, Gugliotta played 3 years from what I could see.
Right, but he was on a lot worse teams
Okay.
than. Okay.
So number 7 is Ricky Rubio.
Jeez. Oh my goodness.
Number 6, a guy I've seen you interview on the
Wally
show.
Zerbiak.
Wally Zerbiak,
Yep.
number 6.
Wally.
Absolutely. Okay, so now I got to come up with, because guys that we've already said are already.
We've named everyone on here except one.
But we know who one is. It's
Yeah.
going to be KG.
Yes.
Right.
So from 5 to 2, what is your order?
So
I'd say Sam Cassell is probably 5. No.
Sprewell's 5.
Sprewell's
Cassell
5.
4.
Cassell 4.
3 is
Kevin Love.
Nope.
Cat.
So Cat's
Cat
3.
is
Then
3.
Love 2.
Love is 2.
And Tickets 1. See, and Anthony Peeler didn't make the list. This proves that I know what I'm talking about.
I'm putting that clip in. I can't wait.
Boy, we really, and here's the thing, Lewis, they traded Ticket for fucking Al Jefferson.
I know.
And nobody brought Al Jefferson up at all, man. Like, you know what? I would never have even thought of Ricky Rubio being on that list. Not in a million years.
Now, okay,
No.
so, well, no, I'll put this out there. If Sam Cassell can make the list, why isn't Jimmy Butler on the list?
That's true. Yep, I agree with that.
I think Jimmy Butler is top 10. I think over Andrew Wiggins.
Shit,
if you
I
can
put
bring
Patrick Beverly on him before Ricky Rubio, dude.
I mean,
to be fair, I think Wiggins at one point was like our franchise leader, and at least I know 3.
Yeah, his rookie season.
Because the team sucked.
He had like 2 good years when he stopped playing.
Yeah. Okay, we'll switch gears. This one I'm
that was
really.
A good one. Hey, thanks, chat. MP3.
Chat
I
MP3.
Like
yep. Okay, so I found this list on Twitter. This is for baseball here. Really interesting to look at. I think this is maybe the past decade. As my computer yells at me. This is we look at the top 30, the teams in order of drafting. Okay, so we've talked draft before. It gives you the amount of picks they've had in the past, however many drafts. I'm curious, what do you think the top 5 teams are, percentage-wise, of the people that they've drafted who have made the MLB? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we'll go 5 to 1. What teams have essentially drafted the best as these players have made the MLB?
Whew. I'm going to say St. Louis is in there.
St. Louis does not crack the top 10.
Wow.
St. Louis is, if I can find them here, number 15, halfway through the pack.
No kidding.
So how far are you this going back, you said?
I can't, well, no, there's no way it's a decade. So the past 328 draft picks. So obviously you pick like 50 people in the draft, it seems. So this is probably the last 5 years, I want to say. Okay. Who has drafted the best?
Tampa Bay.
I'll point out here. I wouldn't necessarily say it means they've drafted the best, because it could be circumstances of, hey, the team sucked. We just called up as many guys as we could. However, the top 5 teams on here, some good teams.
Okay, I was thinking San Francisco just because they had a pretty good run, so that's kind of what my mind was going towards.
They did. The Giants are 26th ranked. 13% of their draft picks have made the MLB.
Tampa Bay?
Tampa Bay is 13th. We're getting closer. 2 teams on here I would have never honestly guessed based off of their history.
Oakland.
Well, that's a good guess, but Oakland is
Just because
29th.
they don't have any real pro players playing. So
I know. No, they're 29th.
Jeez.
They haven't hit yet. See, they're probably signing undrafted guys at this point.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Well, where's Minnesota on that list then?
Number 5.
Number 5?
The Twins are the 5th. They have 17% of their draft picks going to the MLB. 57 guys out of 328.
San Diego?
Not San Diego. They're where are they sitting here? Padres are 8th.
Okay.
We're close.
Washington.
Not Washington.
Jeez.
Washington.
I can't play this game.
So I'll
What
give
about
you number 4. It's Cleveland. Cleveland at 18%. Think about all their pitching that's
Pitching
come
is
through.
what, yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
So
Seattle? Jeez.
think big at this point.
This is tough. New York.
I mean, Yankees, yeah.
Yankees are 3. Dodgers are 2. Who do you think is 1?
I want to say White Sox.
Atlanta.
No.
That's Atlanta's a good one.
Dang.
What about Dodgers then? If we're thinking big.
Well, Dodgers are 2.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry. What's that?
Again, think
Mets.
no.
Cubs.
I wouldn't say they're a huge market, but think big.
Houston.
Yeah.
Okay.
Houston is at 23%.
Yeah, of course. Man, that's a tough one. But see now, that's tough because I mentioned that I watched a lot of the NBA draft, more than I did for sure from last year. We didn't talk about Jenkins, right? The Twins' big stud. Supposedly, Doug Mickavich thinks we got a steal, right? But it's hard for me to watch Major League Baseball draft because you talk about not knowing anybody that gets drafted. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know about an 18-year-old high school kid out of North Carolina and how that transfers or how that transitions from high school ball in North Carolina or AAU or whatever the fuck you want to talk about to Major League Baseball with a number of minor league stops in between. When you talk about a draft being, the luck of the draw, a roll of the dice, you got to think that Major League Baseball draft is that, right? If you think of the number of guys that get drafted.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's literally like what 30 rounds or something at this point now.
But you got high school, community college, universities, guys in Japan, guys in Panama. I mean, you're talking about a lot of players that you have to sift through. And how would you ever be a major league scout? I don't know.
That's nightmare. Golly.
It's crazy. But I think, I mean, the MLB draft is never going to be like the NBA draft because people can't, the draft is multiple days at this point. Now they did a bigger event for it for day one. Did you see the video when Manfred came out and announced the Houston Astros?
Yeah, you got
boot. Like he was pissed. And it was hilarious to watch because he's a piece of shit. Anyways,
I agree.
That's just my piece.
And you know what's funny, Lewis, is that he'll edit out all my cussing, but I know that Noah's going to leave his cussing in when he's making a point like that. Yep.
I haven't edited out one of yours ever since episode 1 when I think we were both drunk at that point anyway. Anyways, so the one thing I'll point out about that list, I would have never guessed the Dodgers or the Yankees to be on that list for how many prospects they trade away. And that's crazy to me because when I look at the Yankees roster, Well, the Dodgers is, now that I think about their roster, it makes a little more sense. But the Yankees were always the team that essentially bought
all the
players.
time, and the Dodgers in some respects as well. I would think they would. Well, we're just going to sign him as a free agent. Why wouldn't he come to Los Angeles? Like.
Yeah. So and then that's my thing. I do like that baseball doesn't have a salary cap, because I think it while I think some teams don't take advantage of it, such as Oakland. I mean, you've got it does also make it frustrating though when teams are just essentially buying championships, which I don't think we've seen in recently though, which has been really cool, because
and you haven't seen it in the NBA where, like Kevin Durant thinks everywhere he's going to get wooed by, he's going to go and bring, his cartoon friends with him and they're going to win NBA championship. Like, remember after the big three with LeBron and Miami,
Yep.
like there were a lot of teams that thought that was going to be the next blueprint, and you don't see it. And I'm happy, because obviously we know Minneapolis is never going to be a big three hangout. You know what I mean? Like, you're never going to entice people to come to Target Center. So yeah, I agree. You don't see the buying of championships as much as everybody thinks that's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah,
especially with the NBA now. I just think that the talent pool is just there's almost too much talent in the NBA. That's why it's so competitive now, because there's for one, you don't know who's going to play every single night. So that's really something that's really frustrating. But then also, you got guys like Oklahoma City where they're super young, but they're pretty talented. And Utah last year were in a tank and they just beat everyone at the beginning of the season. And so that's why I think that super team model isn't as good, because you almost have quote unquote super teams everywhere you go.
Holmgren, you mentioned Oklahoma City. Holmgren going to do anything this year?
I think he's going to have a similar year to Victor. That's my take. I think they're going to be pretty similar.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm cheering for him because I am a hometown guy.
Yeah.
So I would like to see him do something. And, you never want to see somebody miss a whole year, especially their rookie season due to injury or whatever. But Noah's not sold on him at all.
Yeah. I mean, I can say that since I played against him in high school, I kind of understand that height and that skill set's pretty different, especially when you're up close and personal. But I think he's gonna. It's a lot of unknowns, especially with Victor. I have very mixed feelings about Victor as well.
If you
feel more confident than Victor.
If you think, I was gonna say, if you think Chet's gonna have a good year, you better say Victor's gonna have a good year, because I think Victor's gonna have a way better year than Chet will.
I think either both of them have a pretty good year, or they both don't have a good year. I mean, I don't feel like there's one or the other that has one year a good year, and the other doesn't have a bad year.
So, you brought up Kevin Durant. The Phoenix Suns are gonna suck this year. That's my hot take.
Yep,
my hot take.
I agree.
Bradley Beal.
That's a terrible fit. It's so bad. Oh.
I like Bradley Beal, but he's going to be hurt. Kevin Durant is Kevin Durant, and then Booker. I don't know. He doesn't.
How do we get fucking Booker to Minnesota?
He's not.
Honestly, I've been saying that for 3 years.
I think the only time it was going to happen is if D'Lo and Cat were playing together still. I don't think he's coming to Minnesota.
Cat doesn't have enough swag to just bring Booker here.
Well, I'm sure he does, but how do you get Booker? You'd have to trade.
You'd have to trade Jaden.
You have to throw Gobert to match salary, and no one's taking Gobert.
Anyone want him? Let's go. Any team that wants him, I'm fine with that.
I think the only way you get Booker to Minnesota is Cat in Phoenix.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
And there's been talks about how people want Dame to come here for Cat, Cat to Portland, Dame down here. I don't know how I feel about that, but
I like Dame, but he doesn't play. He doesn't play 82 games.
I don't think Dame and Ant's a good fit either. So
I agree.
Okay, last rant that I want to make is, you got the Women's World Cup's coming up at the end of this week. I think the U.S. they're on some kind of historic deal. Like they've pretty much kicked ass there for a long time. I think, are they going after 3 or 4 straight ones, right? It's not been done before. Is it 4?
I think it's 4.
Okay. But my focus is, I like the game of soccer, okay? I watch a lot of soccer. I watched the Gold Cup this past week, even the championship game, even though the United States wasn't in it, still watched it. I've probably in my lifetime since Minneapolis St. Paul got a pro franchise. Prior to this year, I probably caught 96% of all their games on television, okay? Now, I have not seen one game this year because it's all Apple stream bullshit. And you have to explain to me, you two young whippersnappers got to explain to me how this is great, because soccer is so hard for me to push on my friends, especially if you're 50 years old, right? There's not enough explosions during a soccer game or fireworks going off or whatever. So they can't watch it. It's boring. And I'm like, I try to explain that there's things going on the pitch that even if it doesn't result in a goal, it's so cool to watch. You know what I'm talking about, Lewis, right?
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
So to take that out of it, and I pay stupid amounts of money to Comcast every month for my cable bill just so I can watch the teams that I want. If I want to watch the Timberwolves every night, the Twins every night, whatever. I'm not going to start streaming 8 different fucking streamers, okay, to watch MLS soccer. But to me, what a terrible decision on Minnesota United's choice to go with a complete streaming when you have momentum building within a community. And like I say, I couldn't tell you what the standings are right now, where the United, I don't think they're very good.
I haven't seen one out of like the playoff run. They're just out of it, I think.
Just out.
Yeah.
I haven't watched one game this year. Thank you, Apple fucking streaming. Your thoughts on that? Why do I have a right to be pissed off?
I think you sound not, this isn't disrespectful, but the old guy who says get off my lawn.
Yeah.
Because so really quick, and
I want them on my pitch. I want them to participate. No, I don't want to have to go through 8 hoops to go see it.
So it's just to clarify, I've never seen it. It's not on Bally Sports?
No.
Okay.
It's only on Apple streaming. I
will say, I think,
which pisses me off on Friday nights when they put the Twins on that shit.
Yes. I'm not a big fan of all the different streaming stuff, but I will say, I think you are in the minority when it comes to, you still have cable. Not a lot of people have cable anymore, unfortunately. And everyone kind of has these streaming things. And I will say, as much as you can't watch it, it is reaching more fans than ever due to all these streaming services.
Yeah. And another thing too is like, especially with, talking about like business and stuff like that, with the streaming, that's just where the money is. I will say I kind of do side more with John on this one, because I think with like the community aspect of it, I think going straight to Apple TV with Minnesota, I just don't think that's the move. I think somewhere like Miami or LA or like those big market teams, that makes a little more sense, because it's just out there, like the streaming and just how big of a market that is, that makes a little more sense. But in a smaller market team with like an up and coming program that they're building, I don't think just going straight to like just streaming on Apple TV is the way to go, at least for Minnesota.
And here's the thing about that, Noah. If you want to categorize me as get off my lawn kind of guy, okay. But Lewis backed up and piggybacked exactly what I was going to say. With the Twins and Bally, how messed up that situation is. And Major League Baseball said that they would take over the TV rights like they did in, I think it was San Diego, right?
Yeah.
But here's the problem with that, is exactly what Lewis said. You've got all these 60, 70, 80-year-old people that they live for just watching the Twins, because that's their whole life. They don't have anything to do in the summer except sit, in their non-air conditioning living room and watch it. If you're going to have to direct 80-year-old Minnesotans to what stream that they can find the Twins on, ain't going to happen. They're going to be so frustrated. You're going to lose people. And I'm not saying that I can't go with the flow or go with the, the new, but I'm not going to get 8 different things so I can watch. My case in point, you ripped on me for having cable. However, the U.S. men's national team soccer played the other night, and it wasn't broadcast, whatever. And then I go to the Spanish-speaking stations on my cable thing because I've got the whole program. And guess what? I watched the U.S. soccer game, no problem. Didn't understand what they were saying, but I don't need to. I know the game of soccer, so I watched it. I got ripped on quite a bit. Like, oh, you could just stream that on Peacock. What are you talking about? Why did you? It doesn't matter. I'm pleased and happy with my cable deal. I pay the Pirates every month, way too much money, but I know every fucking night what team is playing and where I can find it on what channel. There it is.
No, yeah, I think that's an easier way to go, and I still wish it was like that. All I'm saying is that is the direction that TV and sports is headed, unfortunately. And I think, to your point, yes, there are going to be a lot of people, older people that, are going to have a hard time figuring out how to watch. But I think the idea is, hey, in 5 years, everyone's going to know how to do it. And streaming is just going to be a big thing. Now, it's interesting because streaming services are struggling. And I'm really curious to see what that looks like because a lot of them are going to go out of business soon. So I don't know. It's all, as my friend would say, it's a clusterfuck right now. Yeah. And it's interesting to see, but I'm not taking away from your point. I think you absolutely have a point. I just think, like, from my point of view, where I do have all those streaming services, actually there are even games I still can't watch because I have to get another streaming service.
Right. But that's my point. Okay. So if I got friends, like I talk about watching games in the Garden of Eden, which is this backyard that is incredible to watch baseball games. Because if I can say, look, the Twins are done. It's 9:30. Minnesota United is playing the Seattle Sounders. Let's flip that on. Well, no, you got to go through this. You got to go through that because I'm at somebody else's house. You know what? Instead of just putting on Bally's and going, we're clicked in. It's such an argument just to get my friends to watch soccer anyways. They're not going to search for it. And that's the point that I'm making.
So you think it's losing fans at this point?
Lost me. I don't give a shit what United does this year, man. I don't, because I don't know anything about it. And even if I did, I'm not going to, let's say they make this incredible run and get to the MLS Cup. I ain't going to pay, even if it's $20 a month or whatever. I'm not going to look to go stream that so I can watch Minnesota United. Now, if I can come home after a night of going out and I'm like, oh, the United game's on, I'll even tape that on my cable. Then I have no problem doing that. And it's so easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the point I'm making. I'm sorry. I know. Yeah. I'm a grumpy old man.
Holder, but we get the point.
All right. Well, we're almost I think this is the longest episode we've ever had.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good time.
We had a guest.
We do. And Lewis, thanks for coming. This was was fantastic. Mm-hmm. I think it's the start of multiple guests here on the show, which is going to be great. You're going to keep knocking out the social media. We got a lot planned. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Hopefully I'll join you guys again soon. Thank you guys for having me as well. Real excited for this Timberwolves season. And like I said, once that kind of comes around, I'll have a lot of thoughts on that.
Right on. All right. Thanks, guys. For Noah Stoerzinger, for Lewis, I'm Jonny Voss. Thanks for joining the Show to Be Named Later podcast. We'll see you next time.